Hey, I'm Will Davis. I'm a local handyman, fix-it-up guy. And what I do is I go around and I just help people fix their problems. um, no, as a handyman, I can really do pretty much anything. I can do small electrical, small plumbing, um, most carpentry as far as framing, and I built the shed, so I can do general small construction, things that don't require certifications or permits or inspections, not to get around the law, but really to work within what the law requires. And a small shed like this is less than 200 square feet, so don't really need a permit for it. It's not a permanent structure, so it doesn't, and it's also not a residential structure. Nobody's intended to live in a structure like this. But for my own peace of mind and how I want it to be built, I made sure that it was built to a standard higher than most sheds. So, like, I've got the 16-inch centers on my studs. I've got blocking along the eaves. Really, that is kind of just the minimum that I would accept. Although a lot of these kits that you see at places like Home Depot, they're selling budget kits where you're getting sometimes 2x3 studs instead of 2x4. If they're not 2x3, then often they're 2x4 spaced 2 feet apart, and often they're not even run perpendicular to the wall. They're run parallel with the wall, if you know what I mean. They're laying flat against the siding, the outside of the wall, which I guess for a temporary shed is fine. But I wanted one that would last for decades and not years. Um, and I also made sure that I would be able to use this to show what I could do, and I used it as a learning experience. Um, the type of learning experience that you can only get from experience, from doing hands-on things. That's what I wanted to get out of this, to show what I could do and to put together things that I've learned and show that I can do it on my own. And after I built this shed, I went around trying to show it to other people, trying to sell what I could do as a small scale builder. I can do this. I can do play structures. I can do chicken coops, which is something I'm working on right now. That's my current project, is just to finish a little chicken coop, something for 4 to 6 chickens, where it's about 4 feet by 3 feet in dimensions in floor space, and then about 3 feet tall. Something that you could put in your backyard and just have a few chickens to get a few eggs, so that you're not so dependent on the supermarkets for eggs and meat. There's always other things to consider with that, like feed prices and things like that, how much effort you want to put into it. But it's something that will allow people to have their own backyard poultry. Anyway, so that's what I'm working on now. But getting back to why I built this, I wanted to learn how to do things, how to do work with my hands. I started doing work with my hands when I was a kid, of course. I helped my cousins and I built a fort out in the woods. And then we didn't have power tools. We didn't have air compressors. We didn't use any of those. We didn't need any of those. We had a bow saw and some baling twine. And we used that to cut up all of our wood and use the baling twine to tie everything together. We lashed it all together so that we had a structure. It lasted us for years. And then the Forest Service came and took it down because it was on public land. We're past the, what's it called? The statute of limitations on that. So I'm not admitting to anything criminal. And We intentionally avoided cutting down any live trees. It was all either standing dead or fallen wood that we were using. So nobody can really come at us for that. I mean, I guess you can in the comments if you really want to. It's a free country. You can have your opinions. But I wanted to see how well those skills translate into standard construction practices. And one of the ways that I thought to put that into practice was, well, building these sheds for people. And I've built a few now. After I built this one, I went to work for a company as a contractor, not a general contractor, but just as a contractor to them, using their general contractor's license to build barns. Barns that we were building in a production facility that would be then shipped to site and delivered to their property. And I learned a lot there too. A lot of techniques that I didn't know about going into this. Because, like I said, my background was in building with sawn logs that I had sawn and tying them together. But I also had some experience working with my father-in-law, adding on to the back room of his house, where we did do framing, we did do a little bit of excavation. We had to build a deck and make sure that it was ledged properly, plumb and square and true, and insulated and weatherproofed and up to code, because that room does have to be able to be up to residential standards. So after doing that, this was pretty simple. Just get a few 2x4s and stick them together with nails. And then there's also the online videos that are very helpful about how to build your own shed for the DIYer, not necessarily for production crews, but just some tips to build your own. So I learned from my experience, I learned from other people's experience, and then I put it into action on this. And I learned a lot doing this, and then I learned even more watching other people do it in real time in a production capacity, where the guys that I was working with, for the first 2 weeks they had me on an hourly rate, and then after that it would be based on production. So they were getting paid for their production. Like every floor that you finish is a certain amount. Once you finish the roofing, that's a certain amount. And then, painting, that's another. You're paid by the milestone that you complete. So every finished shed is worth a certain amount. And so you're incentivized to get them out as fast as you can. They also have to meet quality standards. So you can't, put on a piece of plywood sideways and then, the floor bows and everything. And you're like, okay, well, I guess I have to rip that apart. Sorry for the waste of materials, but just got to go as fast as we can and try and make up for that. But that's a great way to learn, is having that pressure on you to perform, to get up to speed, and to make everything you do count. You're not walking from place to place. You're not just wandering around, what do I do next? It's, okay, I see what needs to happen next. What are my steps to get there? And then once you have your steps, then you're safe, so you don't run, but you're walking briskly, almost jogging, back and forth between where your wood pile is to where your workstation is. You're getting your materials, you're getting everything set up so that you can just knock it out and then move it on to the next station. And that really is a good way to think about how to run a business. Because I got into this not because I started out my life thinking that I never really thought that I would be an entrepreneur. I remember in middle school taking a class, I forget what it's called. It's like home economics or something like that. It's whatever the equivalent was. but talking about what a career is, what is an entrepreneur. Um, so you can be an employee or you can be an entrepreneur. And it's like, okay, an entrepreneur is anybody that owns their own business and does their own work. It's like, oh, okay. Well, my dad's an entrepreneur because he owns his own dental office, owns his own dental practice. He's self-employed, which can be different than being a business owner. That's a little bit more nuanced. But for me, I never thought that I would be an entrepreneur. It sounded like that was a lot of risk, especially, in my middle school career. That seemed like something that would be very risky. I think that's something that was reinforced by the teachers, at least, if not overtly, then just because of their mindset, the way that they thought about things. Being in an employee mindset, you tend to think that anything outside of that is a little risky. I think I've got birds moving up under the eaves. Yeah, you can see their shadow. They're moving around. I guess I haven't put up bird netting on the outside, so birds are going to come and nest in my eaves. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's right up there in that corner. Oh, moving all the way around, even up to there. Anyway, a little bit of a distraction. And I'm sure that a lot of others in my generation have felt this too. I thought, I'm just going to play it safe, be an employee. That's fine. I can go to work, 9 to 5 or whatever it ends up taking with a commute. And, then once I'm done at work, then I'll come home and can relax and have a family, kind of the way that I saw my parents doing it, because, my dad being a dentist, having his own dental practice. Yes, he was an entrepreneur, but he was only there from 8:30 to 5 p.m. Well, probably he gets there more around 8 and then is there till 5, but then he has an hour in between. Anyway, so what I saw was that self-employed model where you only had to work a standard employee set of hours, get paid well, and then come home, and then you could enjoy your family and rest and play on the weekends. And then, you just go back to work the next day and do your work and then come home. And that's what I thought was normal. And that's what I expected out of life. Interesting. And so the people who say that you get what you expect out of life, I can't say that's entirely true. You get what you negotiate for out of life. I think that's true. But often reality is not what you expect. It often defies your expectations. So for me, what defied my expectations was what my expectation was that I would get a job. And so I went to college. I went to the University of Utah. I got my bachelor's degree in chemical engineering because from my interests and aptitudes, I enjoyed chemistry in high school. I enjoyed the concepts of engineering. I liked my pre-engineering courses at the junior college that I went to before I served a mission. And then I just thought, well, that's just the natural way to go, is that, that's aligned with my interests. I'm maybe not the most math adept person, so I struggled a bit on those subjects. But I could get the concepts readily enough. Concepts like diffusion of heat through a solid surface, convection, and all the different things that you learn that you hope will be useful in your career. What I didn't learn was the fact that if you don't get an internship at one of these corporations that you hopefully go to work for when you're done, because I went to the career fairs. That's where I thought I was going to meet recruiters. That's where I thought I would get job opportunities, hand out my resume. But what you really need to do, if you're going to go that route, is you really need to build the relationships with the recruiter so that they want you to come work for them in their internships. Because if you can build those relationships, then they want you there, and then they'll invite you because of your relationship with them, not because of anything with your resume. As a college student, what does your resume really show other than like whether you've had a job or not in the past, and what your GPA is? What relevant coursework have you taken? It's like any other graduate has taken relevant coursework. It's like, so if they're better at communicating that than you, then their resume looks better. But what the recruiters are there for is to build relationships so that they can see the people that they want to work with. And so when they see the people they want to work with, they invite them on, and then they come on and do an internship. And then if they work well, then they're going to bring them into a full-time position. But of course, HR being what HR is, it's like, well, we can't fill a position that we don't have a listing for, so we have to list the listing on the whatever site or job listing board for like 48 hours or a week or 2 weeks or something before we can fill the position. But they already have somebody in mind that's going to fill the position. It's that intern that they liked and brought on because they built a relationship, and they could say, oh, okay, I think this person will fit with our company. And then the resume is more of a formality, like, okay, well, this will give us some background information, and it's more just so that they can say they got it. It's like so they can verify that you are who you say you are, and not just somebody who came up and started talking to them. But yeah, I talked to the recruiters, but I wasn't focused on building the relationship. I was focused on, well, what do I want to do? What do I want out of this? So, if I were talking to the younger me right now, and I was still on that path of I want to have a career in this, it would be, when you go to those job fairs, when you go to those recruiting meetings, have fun with the recruiters. Talk to them about their interests and their hobbies. What do they like about working at that company? What got them started? What advice would they give you? How do they balance their work and family life? But if that's what you want to do, then you really need to have that relationship. That's what I would tell myself. One thing that I need to also tell myself is what happens, how I've changed since then too. Because I thought that was the way forward for me. I thought I was going to be an employee, work from 8 to 5 or whatever it would be, and then come home and have my weekends and holidays and stuff off. And then the rest of the time I would be at work doing what I was trained to do in school, which was, go sit at a desk, crunch the numbers, come up with the report, turn it in for validation, and then either do more work on that same thing or move on to the next subject. That's not how it works anymore, apparently. Maybe for some, I'm sure it does for some people, especially those who get engineering and like degrees that really do have a certain merit in society. First piece of advice, though, before the recruiting thing, is take a look and see if you're actually really wanting college or not. Because the university degree, the college degree, we've been told that everybody should get it. It's really not right for most people. Most people should not be in college. Most people are just going there to have an experience because they don't know what else to do with their life, and they've been told that that's the right way to go. If you have any doubt of whether college is right for you, just don't do it until you're sure. And I'm sure you've heard the statistics about how most of the debt in the country now is from people getting degrees that they don't actually use. It's like that, that classifies me. Comment down below. Down below. Oh, baloney. Yeah, leave a comment if that's your experience too. If if you went to college and now can't find a job that you were promised, or just, generally was out there as the natural outcome of getting a college degree. Anyway, so yeah, most people should not be going to college. You don't have a reason to. And generally, the only outcome will be that you are saddled with debt for decades or longer from that decision. It's like, yeah, I don't regret going to college so much as I hate to say that, because in some ways I do regret it. In some ways I regret getting a degree instead of dropping out. Like, I would have been better off spending the tuition money on buying a house and growing that in value. Like buying a fixer-upper and fixing it up and then selling it, and working at a construction job for those years. It's like, yeah, I learned a lot of things, and I gained friendships, which, all those people that I had friendships with in college and university have all gone on to other things. Either they're in chemical engineering, which, good for them. I'm glad that they did, that the right people did. And then there's others like me who are like, you know what, I couldn't really find a job that I liked, or I decided that I really didn't like chemical engineering after I got into it, and I want to make a change. So for me, I'm building a business not because I don't have any other choice. I do have other choices. I could go into chemical engineering, but the choices weren't appealing. They're not. Like, talking to people in that field, it's not me. Some people really enjoy it and they get along with it, but a lot of others are just like, yeah, this is just kind of something that I chose, and now I'm sticking to it because it's just the way life is. You choose something and then you do it. Like, okay, yeah, I respect that, and I would rather pick something that is more aligned with me, which is building, construction, and doing hands-on things, learning new things, doing the practical things. That's the part that I liked about chemical engineering, was learning the practical skills. Like, oh, how does a air conditioner work? Like, what cycles does it go through? What is the, you've got the compressor, and then you've got the, heat exchange, and the hot side and the cold side, and you've got the reducer. I can't even name off all the parts right now, but generally how that works and what the principles are behind it. It's like, oh, I think that's really cool. Can I service an air conditioner? I could learn that. That would be kind of a neat thing to learn. I know how it works in principle. I've played with one hands-on, in the laboratory. So the takeaway from this talk is, I would recommend to myself in the past, do what is fulfilling to you, that meets a need in the economy. You see other people around you who want sheds. It's like, if you want to learn how to build something, start with a shed. Maybe your neighbor wants one, and you can say, well, here, I'll help you build that. You can pay me just an hourly rate, or just a commission or something to help you build it. Or in the case of my father-in-law is like, let me help you and learn the skills, and I'll use your tools, and let me borrow your tools to go build another one. Because I didn't have all the tools to start with. I still borrow tools that I don't have. but I have a lot more now than I did when I started. But, start by finding somebody who needs help with something that has tools and experience. Somebody who's nearing retirement. Maybe they don't want to, they're not looking to build their business so much as wind it down. Just say, hey, let me work with you. I just want to learn. And then when we're done working together, can I borrow your tools? Instead of paying me, just let me learn. One thing I did want to say about college, I guess a parting thought. There are other benefits to college other than getting your degree or getting a job. It's a great way to meet other people with similar interests and similar mindsets. Like the one person that is still in my life that I met in college, in my junior college, before my mission, before going on to the University of Utah, and that's my wife. I met her at Snow College in southern Utah, and we didn't really date. We went on a couple of dates, I guess I should say, and really just spent time together as friends there at that junior college. And then after I came home and was getting ready to go to the University of Utah, then we really started dating. But yeah, so there are benefits from college aside from an education. So if all you're going to college for is an education, or even just to meet people, I think there are better ways to do it. Yeah, I've rambled long enough. Hopefully you find some of this entertaining or interesting. But yeah, I would love to hear your comments, either agreeing or disagreeing, hating, loving, whatever it is. But I'll talk to you again later.